What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Steven Ostentowski here of the Maize and Blue Review, bringing you another episode here of Views from the Bench with CJ Baird, bringing you a couple plays analysis here for Michigan's first loss of the season, a little bit earlier than last year. CJ, drop a close one here to Seton Hall, 67-65 in Chrysler Arena. Give me some brief thoughts you have from the tough loss. I know I was frustrated. What were you thinking after watching that game?
Yeah, Steven, like you said, it was pretty frustrating watching that game at some points. I think Seton Hall, we have to give them credit. I mean, they came out and ready to play. They had a good game plan. I think they did a lot of actions and had a lot of different scenarios that confused Michigan's defense and also took Michigan out a lot of their offensive sets. I don't know if people noticed. Seton Hall was switching a lot of the screens on the off-ball actions, trying to make sure Michigan didn't run their plays easily. It kind of threw the offense for a loop for most of the game, and then they moved well without the ball on their offensive side. So it was a pretty impressive performance, but I expect Michigan to bounce back.
Yeah, you'd rather have this game now when it, don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it matters a lot less early in the season now, 3 games in, rather than Big Ten play. So all goals still in front of you. It's only a loss if you don't learn from it, or in the grand scheme of things. Still a loss in the win-loss column, but this is how I'm rationalizing it. All right, so let's dive into these plays here. Let's learn a little bit with CJ Baird.
Moody from Arkansas, Scotty Barnes. Goodness.
So he's got no problem fitting into a star-studded cast here.
Yeah, he knows how to play as a teammate.
So out of the timeout in a 3-point game, Jones has it. Here is Diabate. Spins on Samuel and gets fouled.
Pretty fortunate offensive possession here for Michigan to get to the foul line. Talk us through it, CJ. What was Seton Hall doing here?
So this is something that Seton Hall did really well this whole game is they switched a lot of the screens here. So if you roll it forward a little bit, you see Devontae Jones coming down the court and he advances the pass to Caleb Houston. And this is where we really start to see what Seton Hall did well. Seton Hall forced the play outside of the main area. So I know this is probably an emphasis of Coach Howard's, but see where Brandon Johns catches the ball? He's at the logo. And this is not really posing any sort of threat on the defense here. See how far that pass was pushed out? And Michigan really wants to make sure that they can keep their offense in a closer space. I think I mentioned in a previous video with you, Steven, actually, when you have your man like setting up a pass that's closer to the rim, it provides more of a threat and it puts more pressure on the defense to not make mistakes around the rim. So by Seton Hall pushing out all these actions, it really made Michigan have a tougher time running them.
Sure.
So as you can see, as the play goes on, Brandon's trying to reverse the ball, and Seton Hall switches here. So number 0 on Seton Hall, that's guarding Devontae, points out to number 15 and says, "Stay out there. This is your guy now. I'm gonna take the guy that's cutting to the rim." So number 15 stays out there, and number 0 takes Eli Brooks, who's going to the rim right now. So Brandon Johns is looking to get Devontae Jones the ball. That's clearly what they're looking to do. Is they want Devontae Jones to get the ball in an advantageous position. And it also looks like Eli Brooks is setting a back screen down under the basket here for Moussa Diabate, trying to free him up and either get him to the block. And as you can see, this whole action is kind of what they're looking to do under the rim. And by Seton Hall, if you go up to Brandon up here, by Seton Hall forcing this play all the way up to half court, you can't throw that pass to Moussa. So now it turns into, okay, we're going to not deny this pass, make it hard for Devontae to catch it, and the whole play is practically blown up. It takes so much time for Devontae to get the ball that they can't run the play they want to, and Moussa ends up just running out to get a screen for Devontae, and there's not much going for Michigan on this play. So Devontae has to make a quick decision. He passes to Moussa, and Moussa is forced to make a long drive to the basket. And fortunately for Michigan, they get fouled, but this is just one example of what Seton Hall did all night was they forced the plays. They made the plays a lot tougher to run, and they got the guys that they wanted to go into the basket. So very impressive on their part.
Yeah, and it's even like you mentioned how far away Johns is right here. This doesn't even set you up very well on the next pass, right? The angles are taken away. So when Brandon Johns, his initial pass isn't here, he's dribbling. He's not threatening any sort of drive to the basket being this far away. He has no shot option here. So you can play that much more aggressively at Seton Hall. And there's just not really any good options. Even like, what if you give the ball to Moussa right here, this isn't a great spot for him to be spotting up to shoot, right? You're just too far away from any sort of threatening positioning here in general. So yeah,
Exactly. And I think something that I don't think this play was, at least from my perspective, I didn't think the play was for Musa to come out and set this ball screen. The block to block screen that Eli Brooks was setting made me think that Musa was trying to get the ball on the block. And Seton Hall pushing that play all the way out forced Musa to be like, I'm not getting the ball in this spot. Maybe I should just go set a ball screen.
Got it.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the play was supposed to be run like that, but it still looked funky. It still looked out of whack. And that's something that I think Michigan's going to need to work on, getting into defenders' bodies and making sure they get in a pass in advantageous position.
Sure.
They really had a sink on the offensive end, but Michigan's turned up the D. Good job by Ike fronting. This is where you got to stay at home on the corner.
Brooks shovels it off. John's able to squeeze.
Nice little off-ball movement here, creates an open look. Seton Hall seemingly had this pretty well defended to start. Let's talk through it, CJ.
Yeah, and actually I think that was something I wanted to point out. If you start at the beginning of the play, the initial look is to get Hunter Dickinson the ball. And of course, he had been playing such a great game, dominant force in the post. And even guys like Obiagu at 7'2" had trouble guarding Hunter. So I think Michigan was really looking to get him the ball early. But what Obiagu does really well here is he gets physical with Hunter and gets around him and does something. He denies the pass entirely. So as Obiagu tries to get right in front of Hunter Dickinson, that's a terminology that a lot of people use, like they call it a red. You get in front of your man and completely deny him the ball. And usually that's something that teams that want to deny Hunter the ball are going to try to do. So Brandon Johns actually makes the correct read here by running to the middle of the paint. When Brandon Johns runs to the paint, and Brandon doesn't get the ball here, but in his position, if he had gotten this pass, Hunter had Obiagu, he could have just lobbed it over the top. Hunter had his hand out and was looking for this pass. So that was a good option for Michigan, but obviously not forcing it was important. But the main action I wanted to show here was how Coach Howard really slowed it down. Notice the play was broken up, and you can see him motioning at the top of your screen here. He's really trying to get everybody set. Once he sees the initial play is not going to work, he gets everybody set and runs something pretty simple, like a quick hitter. And as Coach Howard gets everybody set, Dickinson sets up the screen. And the thing I wanted to emphasize here is you stop the ball right here. And look at the spacing that Michigan has. Michigan has Devontae Jones all the way in this corner here, which allows Eli and Hunter a lot of space to roll. Brandon Johns is actually further under the elbow area, and Caleb Houston's all the way in the opposite corner. So this, even teams with a lot of length like Seton Hall, this spacing really helps get through this length. I mean, these guys they were huge, long defenders. And by spreading them out like this, it gave Eli Brooks an easier chance to get to the rim and a better opportunity for Hunter Dickinson to roll. So if you roll the clip even more, as Eli goes around the screen, there's actually at the top of the screen here, Caleb Houston sets a great back screen on Brandon Johns' man. So Seton Hall, they were switching screens all game, like I mentioned earlier. This off-ball screen, Seton Hall actually does this thing that Coach Beeline used to call zoning up. So when you zone up on a weak side over here, it's usually when a ball screen is happening. So Michigan is running a ball screen, and Seton Hall's defenders are like, okay, we're going to stand in our zone. We're not going to worry about what happens on the weak side. We want to make sure we're guarding the ball screen and making sure that we don't really care what's happening over there. We want to make sure we're in our spots to deny any sort of passes that may come. So even though the screen may not look like it does a lot, Seton Hall, they are totally focused on the ball screen. So they're like, if you look at their guys, they're staring at Hunter Dickinson. They're staring at Eli Brooks. So once that screen happens, Brandon Johns makes this correct read. He's like, okay, I see my man that should be guarding me is looking right at Eli and looking right at this ball screen. So he goes right to the rim. You see, he makes the read right away. He's like, I'm going to make this great cut. I see the back of my defender. And Eli Brooks makes the correct read. Hunter Dickinson makes a good seal. And it's an easy feed to Brandon under the rim for a good layup. This is what Michigan should have been doing more of throughout the game, is kind of attacking Seton Hall's switching strategy and putting them in tough positions when they get to the rim.
Yeah, I think another underrated aspect of this is Caleb Houston, I think, had a pretty rough night overall, but he's still a threat from three-point land. So in terms of, this is number 14 for Seton Hall, who does get lost on Brandon Johns, but you further vacate that area, because if this isn't a guy that is threatening, right, this is your a guy who's really going to be threatening the perimeter here, this guy could sag back a little bit, right? And if he doesn't have to rush out here, maybe he recognizes there's going to be a drive, potential kick here, and he can be there to support. So I think this is like just this little secondary action. That's all you need here, assisted with the fact that his eyes are lost, right? He's going to turn his body. He's not going to maintain contact that he needs to recognize the threat there. So, yeah, it's a great play.
And to Johns.
A flare screen.
Johns on the block. Try to whip that one through the...
Get down to crunch time here. Under 5 minutes, turnover. A couple turnovers late in Michigan, from Michigan in this one. Talk us through, CJ, what's going on.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, it was crunch time. And I think when you get to crunch time, you need to make sure you're getting the shots you want. And Seton Hall, again, does a really good job here of forcing the play to where they want it to go. So as this little screening action here between Brooks and Devontae Jones happens, look at how Eli is showing his hands. Eli is doing his job. Devontae Jones is trying to come get the ball. So when the screen is set here, if you run it a little bit more, notice how Eli's guy is pointing again. You see him point, and the number 15 is like, you take my man. So Seton Hall is saying, okay, we want to make sure this pass is pushed off of where it normally would come from. So Eli wants to make sure he gets the pass in a good spot. This switch is denying him all the way out to the elbow, which makes it more difficult for Michigan to get this play going. So Eli is catching the ball really high on the wing there. He's so far off the three-point line that he's not really a scoring threat from that position. And being a scoring threat from anywhere on the court is really important because it keeps your defender on his heels. And this actually, Eli's dribble here is really important. So he takes a dribble down to try to get a better angle to like throw a pass here. So as you can see, as Devontae Jones sets this back screen here for Brandon Johns, they didn't want to switch this screen because it wasn't a like size screen. So when I say like size, that means the defenders are about the similar size. So Trey Jackson, who is guarding Brandon Johns here, is about 6'10", and number 15 on Seton Hall is like 6'2". So they didn't want to switch the screen. And I think Coach Howard was seeing this and trying to get Brandon Johns in an advantageous position. So when you roll the clip even a little bit more, Brandon's actually open for a split second. As Steven and I talked a little bit about off recording here, Brandon's open for a split second here. And Eli, I don't think he was looking for Brandon as a first option, which is something that's kind of tough to do in these tight scenarios. I will give Seton Hall credit again. I think, as you can see, number 1 on Seton Hall that's guarding Eli is trying to deny the pass to Devontae Jones. See how his whole body is square to the sideline. He does not want anything coming back towards the middle of the court because that's how Michigan runs majority of their action from this game. And with Brandon Johns being open like that, Eli misses him by just a split second. So Brandon has to readjust and catch this pass with his defender recovering. And so now this is actually important here. I mean, there's 4:52 left in the game. Michigan's up 3. And at this point, you really need a bucket. You can't have a turnover. And Brandon Johns throws this shovel pass, trying to force the pass into Hunter. I mean, it looks like a pretty good look as Hunter cuts to the rim here and he tries to throw it. But it's really tough when you're in that close position. He really fires that pass. And it's tough as a big man when you're running and there's 2 guys around you. You got this tough shovel pass coming at you 100 miles an hour. So usually in these scenarios, I think it's a tight window to throw it through. And with Michigan, you still have 10 seconds left. And so Hunter going to the rim here actually drew the attention of number 22 on Seton Hall. If you can see him standing on the block right there, he doesn't see that Caleb Houston is wide open. Caleb Houston had a tough game shooting overall, is absolutely wide open. So Hunter's cut, I don't think Hunter was actually looking to score here. I don't think he expected to score. I think what he was trying to do here was trying to free up Caleb Houston. His cut draws so much attention that Caleb Houston had a wide open look. And a lot of times to negate a lot of these turnovers, you just make the easy play. And so Brandon Johns, I think, was knowing Hunter's having a good game, really wanted to get him the ball because he's going to finish at the rim if he catches his pass.
Right.
But it's too tough to make in clutch time. And that's something I think Michigan's probably talked about in practice.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to get your opinion on here on this back screen, there from Devontae Jones. Do you think the path here for Brandon Johns should be a little bit tighter here? I'm thinking because he gets so deep on the block here, it's tough for him to, again, be a scoring threat with how deep he gets under the basket. Should he have possibly recognized right here, hey, I have some more space. Instead of fading down, you see now he's down below the block kind of at the start of that arc there. I'm thinking maybe could he have sagged back a little bit, wall off a little bit more, still keep his hand out, but put his butt out, right? Because on this switch, create all this open space, and then maybe that creates some more additional help, and you can have, either Dickinson or Houston backside from that.
Exactly, and I think that's a really good point. I think, like you said, Brandon could have had a flatter cut. So what he did was like a banana cut. They call it like he rounds it out. He rounds this cut. He actually could have been in a better position. But I also think this is on Devontae Jones here. I don't think the screen was set at the right angle. So Devontae Jones his right shoulder so see how he's setting the screen? He's throwing his right shoulder into him. And the angle he's setting it at forces Brandon to take that route around him. Yeah. So what happens is if EY, there's a lot of factors that gone into this. If EY had caught the ball in a better spot closer to the wing, maybe Brandon would have still gotten an easy bucket. But with EY being so far out, Devontae's screen being kind of at a funny angle, forcing Brandon around the long way, and then Brandon catching the ball a little off the block, all three of those things were really crucial in a 3-point game. Those are the details we talk about here. And even this turnover here, Brandon could have had an easy bucket. Right. And like you said, I think flattening out that cut and getting a better position really could have been a good bucket for them.
Yeah.